All right, welcome back to the Gold Country Miner. So what I'm going to do in this video is give you an idea of the science and art of gold panning. I want to try to teach you the principles of how to pan down a load of gravel and get to those nice gold flakes at the bottom. So I'm going to set up a little experiment here using some playground sand, some fishing weights, and a tub of water out here on the lawn, or the field as I call it this time of year. So the first thing I need to do is fill up a container with some water. And that's going to act as our river that we're going to pan into. All right, the next thing we need to get is a little bit of sand. And we're going to load it up into this clear pie pan. That way you can see what's happening as we start panning through it. Now I've got a handful of lead fishing weights, and these are going to act as our gold because, you know, roughly they're the same density as the gold you'd find out in the rivers. I'm going to sprinkle these gold nuggets throughout our pan of gravel. There's about 15 of them. So now the physics of gold panning are based on the fact that gold is much denser than the sands and gravels that you're going to find in the river. And as you start to agitate a pan of gravel and gold, the gold is going to start working its way down through the gravel and settling at the base of the pan. So let me see if I can illustrate this for you. So here we go. We got our pan full of gravel and our gold flakes or nuggets scattered in there. Now step one is going to be to get this pan thoroughly wet. You want to fill her up with water, stir it all around with your fingers. That's an important step, is to stir it first. Get everything wet, all that dry gravel down at the bottom. You want to get it all totally saturated. Acorn, a little bit of playground bark. There we go. So everything is nice and wet. All right, next step, you want to shake it thoroughly. I usually do kind of a circular motion. And what you're trying to do here is get that gold to start working its way down through the sand and gravel to the very bottom of the pan. There. Okay, that ought to do it. Okay. Now, when you first start panning, you're going to keep the pan at a relatively low angle. And you're just going to go back and forth, allowing the water to rush in, and then as it goes out, it's going to draw off that top layer of sand and gravel. Just like that. So I usually do 3 or 4 back and forths, get some water in the pan, shake it back down. Back and forth, a couple of times, shake it back down. Back and forth. Now, if you noticed as I was panning, I started out at a flat angle. But as I progressed and panned more of the sand off the top, I slowly tipped it more and more vertical in this direction and maintained that angle as I was panning back and forth. That's what you want to do. Even as you go to shake it and agitate it, you don't want to tip it back down. You sort of lose your progress that way. The idea here is to gradually concentrate your gold flakes down in this bottom corner of the pan, the lowest part. As you can see here, as I'm getting down to the bottom, My angle is pretty steep, and those lead weights are starting to show up. Interesting, there's even a little bit of black sand. Maybe there's gold. All right, well, if you count them up, there's all 15 of the lead weights that I started with, so we had a 100% recovery rate. So there you have it. That's the basics of gold panning. Step 1, get your material nice and wet. Step 2, agitate it and shake it back and forth real good. Step 3, start rinsing that lighter sand and gravel off the top with a back and forth motion. Step 4, as you progress, keep your pan tipping up at a steeper and steeper angle. That's all you got to do. Now, if you enjoyed today's episode of the Gold Country Miner, go ahead and hit that like button and consider subscribing to my channel. Now, in my next episodes, I'm going to start hitting California's gold country on some real adventures. You know, actually going out and finding some treasures, finding some gold, and working those rivers. So stay tuned for those next videos. Until then, thank you for watching, and I'm signing off as the Gold Country Miner.